So we're very, very lucky and very grateful today that the Dr. Alex Swan is joining us for the podcast. I knew Alex many, many years ago when I turned up from the UK at Freo, kind of knowing what I was doing. Pretty not the easiest of people. In fact, Alex, at that stage, you were a brand new consultant anaesthetist, I think.
I was, yeah. I think you were there as a fellow, weren't you?
And a lot of water has passed under the bridge for both of us since then. So I thought we'd start at the beginning.
Okay.
And I gather you went to Guy's Hospital in London, which I wasn't aware was a medical school. Is it?
Where were you again, Bruce?
I was at the Royal Free.
Yeah.
The ladies' hospital.
We have a similar opinion about the Royal Free. Yeah, no, Guy's in St Thomas's. It was just merged when I was there.
You're not really posh enough to be Tommy's, though.
No, I wasn't at Tommy's. I lived at Guy's, so I was very much a Guy's boy.
Okay.
I was in the era where we still hated each other. You know?
Yes, well, and of course, you're now GKT.
Yeah.
You're no longer Guy's, and in fact, the Royal Free is now University College Medicine or something. So we're all defunct and officially dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So how did you end up in Australia?
Ended up in Australia, my elective, med school elective. Didn't really know where to go. My dad said, "You've got cousins and an uncle in Perth in Western Australia who I'd never met." So organised a placement really, and I came to meet my family and never been to Australia. So that's why I came, first of all.
Okay, and did you go back and then come back, or was that it?
Yeah, so I did my elective in Royal Perth Intensive Care Unit, loved it, had a brilliant time, met my cousin, went home, finished med school, did house jobs, came back for a year away with a bunch of my mates, pretty much.
Okay, so we're kind of the same, so I did it a little bit later on, but you're absolutely. Yeah. And then interestingly, you became an anaesthetist.
Yeah.
And we do need to clean something else up, because 50% of Australian population don't know that anaesthetists are actually doctors. So can you just confirm that anaesthesia is a part of medicine?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. No, it's definitely a part of medicine. I've heard that a lot. Don't know why that is. I guess we're quite hidden, really. They meet us for a little bit of a time and then forget about us and think the surgeons do everything.
Do you mind that?
Sometimes annoys me, but I don't really. I just let it go, really.
Yeah. So you don't worry about the fact that you basically hold people's lives in your hands for a long time. But that's how they see it, and then actually nobody actually knows that you did anything. You okay with that?
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah, some people know, and some people don't. And
so you're more humble than me.
Oh no, I just think it is the way it is, right? So you and I know that critical care, anaesthesia, intensive care is important, but other people don't, and I'm not really that perturbed by it.
No, I'm like you. I'm quite happy being in the background actually, and as you know, as we both know, every now and then, a bit like a pilot on a plane, every now and then you find out whether the guy's any good or not. Yeah, but it's very unusual. Mostly we walk around, flirt with people, and have coffee, and that's about it.
That's it. Do Sudoku.
Well, no, Sudoku's too intense for me. I spend most of my time trying to annoy the surgeon.
Yeah, change music, annoy the surgeon, chat up the nurses, all of that stuff.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So,
I can imagine.
So then not only are you an anaesthetist, but in fact that's the very least of what you do. So tell me, how is it that you? Tell me the other things that you do. Tell me the thing the other you do beyond medicine. So firstly, the leadership roles that you've had.
Oh, okay. So through medicine, I've had an opportunity to have a few leadership roles. I was deputy head of the Department of Anaesthetics in Freo. Quite young, probably just from being outspoken about
young
things.
And gorgeous, if you don't
young
mind
and
saying.
gorgeous.
I mean, let's be honest. You are a honey.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
You're all right yourself. So I did that, and then that led on to just being involved in things. So I ended up as the inaugural head for Fiona Stanley, which was opening the hospital, commissioning it, doing various bits and bobs there.
So you're being very humble again, annoyingly, because you don't just kind of become head of department of a brand new multi-billion-dollar hospital and open a department, including buying all the kit. Mm. You don't just do that because no one else wanted to, or do you?
Do you know what? I think it's a reflection on Australia a bit. So in England, you know, we're all in the NHS. We all work in. Everyone's together. I think the private system in Australia leads a lot of the doctors to focus on their private practice.
Yeah.
So I found that if you've got a little bit of enthusiasm for something in Australia, you just get opportunities, right? So I was outspoken as a young consultant because I'm confident enough to be like that about issues. And what was wonderful about Freo was it had some great mentors there, people like Jenny Stedman, who instead of saying...
Jenny's amazing.
Yeah, instead of saying, be quiet, you're a young consultant, she said, well, if you think you can do this better, go and do a project, show us, and so challenged me to do it. So I ended up doing things.
Isn't that funny? So you reminded me, Jenny Stedman was somebody I always thought was fantastic.
Amazing.
For exactly that.
Yeah. So I was empowered to do things, and that's quite powerful motivator because then you think, actually, it's quite good. I can change things. And we had a good group of young people. There was research going on. Freo was changing from a very small, old department, blossoming really. It took on clear, so it expanded. So they got a big intake of people like Ed O'Loughlin, who you'd know, Al Davies, all these kind of people who were all interested in doing stuff. So it was an
amazing group. I remember I remember coming there as a senior reg and thinking, wow, this is a really cool place.
Yeah, it was a good community of people, but it was also in a nice hospital size, very like a DGH in the UK. So we did a lot of high-end stuff, but we also had a lot of fun and we had a lot of downtime to do things.
People didn't seem to take themselves overly seriously.
No, we were the little brother. I mean, Royal Perth and Charlie's were the big hospitals, so we were left alone.
So then you take the walk down the road to join the big boys and girls at Fiona Stanley.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about being head of department, because I joined a very little ICU and built it like you did, but you went to the big house and how was that?
It was an amazing experience, really, and quite a lot of fun most of the time. I think the motivation there was,
just to be clear, let's define what you mean by fun.
Well, for me, it's challenge. It's doing things. It's
because they're difficult.
Often, yeah. I like being out of my comfort zone. So that's one thing that just personal motivator. But I think Fiona Stanley was unique. It's not often in your career you get to be involved in a new hospital.
Absolutely.
And we had a young group, and we were like, we can do things better. We were all driven. We wanted to do things better. And we were sold the opportunity to the blue sky, I think they call it, but it's a bit naff, but that term. But the opportunity to try and do things better, and we all felt we could.
Do you think part of that was create a new culture?
Try to, yeah, absolutely.
Because you and I were, as you mentioned, the culture at Freo, compared to Charlie's and Royal Perth, not to knock it, but to say it's different.
Yeah.
And I always got the impression that Fiona Stanley was another different culture again.
Yeah, it was, and I think we were. What you're sold in commissioning, as in what you're promised by the government or ministers giving you the money or people running a project, is very different to the reality.
Sure.
So, but the opportunity to try and affect change was there, and that's why we did it. And then, of course, the reality of actually running a place that's suddenly very busy and under the pump and under resourced and understaffed and all that sort of stuff leads to change and cultural change, and a lot of things you want to do you can't do. So
did you? By the way, did you know any of this?
No.
No, you see,
I had no idea.
Exactly.
I'd never done anything like it. So
there you go.
But I think the reason I got the job, because I was up against John Anderson, I remember at the time, and Mike Ward, who both of those people, senior anaesthetists. And I think the reason I got the job was the people that were making those decisions actually genuinely wanted to change, and they didn't want the same old systems brought in. So there were some quite senior people that went for the job that weren't successful, and I think I was just the beneficial, benefited from my enthusiasm and my drive and my youth and my energy and a different vision.
Can I also add to that? And you wouldn't say it, isn't it? Also because you're also a very, very decent bloke.
I tried to be a decent bloke.
People like you. Yeah. I mean, cause we were talking about leadership.
Not
before.
everyone.
But you can't. Yeah. It's not a democracy. But people seem to me to respond to you, whether they liked it or not. They responded to you because you clearly weren't doing it out of your own for any kind of motivation other than for this place to work better.
It's kind of you to say. I think I had a lot of supporters. Sure. Definitely. I had some detractors, but I do think also some people that didn't like me begrudgingly respected me, maybe. Yeah, and I think, you're right. I wasn't doing it for, there's certainly no money in it or anything like that. It's it was some other drive. So, but
And as you said, coming from the UK, you'd never get that chance.
That's right.
You'd
That's
never
right.
get that chance.
It just wouldn't have happened in the
Same
UK.
as Don't Let Life for me.
Yeah.
When someone says, do you fancy it? You go, what?
Yeah, sure.
You go, yeah, go on then.
Yeah.
And my wife said to me, you can't do that.
Yeah.
I said, well, what? No one else wants to do it. No
Yeah.
one else wants to do that job. And I'm not surprised that I'm glad that they gave it to you.
But I
because
don't
they
agree
give-
with what your wife said. You can't do that because I think I don't think anything we do is that hard.
Sorry, you're not obviously qualified for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely.
Whereas
yeah.
you and I would
but no
say-
one, but you got to start somewhere, right? So you can't get experience without doing stuff. No. So I'm very much of that opinion. Lots of people do courses and stuff around leadership and all that. The doing it is where you learn the most, whatever it is in your life.
Right. So on.
So
from that-
I'm prepared to put my hand up and go, I'll
There
give
you
this
go.
a crack.
There you
That's why I think I got that job. Yeah.
There you go. So on from that, then also you're also involved in what's the organisation called that because you were involved in the COVID response.
So you're talking
in
about
China.
OSMAT stuff. Yeah.
OSMAT. Yeah. So tell me about OSMAT.
So OSMAT is the Australian Medical Assistance Team. It's essentially a disaster response team for Australia.
Government
federal resource. It started after the Bali bombings and the tsunami, when there was a need to respond to help our neighbours in Asia Pacific mainly. That was always very disjointed. So the government decided to have a cohesive response. At the time, there was
quite a visionary look for government. I mean,
Yeah, it
fair
is.
comment, fair dues to them.
Yeah,
It makes tremendous amount of sense.
yeah, a really good thing to do. And at the time, the states all fought each other because New South Wales thought they were better than Queensland and
there's a thing.
WA and all of that. You know, we were very much an afterthought because we're far away from the East Coast. And in the end, the decision was made to set OSMAT up in Darwin. Number one, it's a territory, but number two, it's actually very close to Asia, and the first responders came from there. And so OSMAT started, I can't remember how long ago exactly, but started literally with a container outside Royal Darwin Hospital and very quickly built to become what's an amazing organisation now. And a friend of mine, who's an extremely capable guy, was responsible for setting up most of that. And so I've been involved.
Tell me about the chat about the COVID work that you did.
So I've been involved in OSMAT for a while, and COVID happened. We heard about this. I was in Fiona Stanley in the hospital, and we just heard about this mystery virus. We're talking to a few friends in the UK, where it was obviously kicking off a lot more quickly than it did here.
Yeah.
It sounded a bit worrying, and then suddenly there was this, they were going to shut Wuhan down and try and contain the virus, and the Australian government wanted to get...
Sounds very much 28 days later.
Well, it is kind of like that.
When I heard that.
Well, it was very... I'll tell you about flying into Wuhan. Was a very weird experience. But they tried to shut the city down, so the Australian government wanted to get people out. And so did many governments, actually.
Yeah.
So there were a bunch of retrieval flights, and I think they thought, how do we do this? Do we use like an RFDS retrieval system? It's not really that. Do we do we go to private companies? And they said, well, OSMAT is this organisation that had by that time gained a reputation for just being able to do stuff. We just finished in Samoa, just helped out on the volcano in New Zealand.
So again, you go, we just... And
well, I'm just a little part of it. I'm just in the team.
Sure, but to a lot
Bruce,
of people,
so.
but you're going, okay, okay, where are we going next?
Yeah, so
and I get that. I like. That's why I always thought it was fascinating that you went, yeah, well, go on then. Other people go, you're going to do what?
Yeah,
and you go, well, I don't know, but we've got medical stuff and we're going to go.
But I see it I see it as I've got a skill set that allows me to do things that have an impact beyond my normal scope in front of me.
Okay.
And I explained it to my kids. I remember them saying, Dad, we don't want you to go. And I said, well, look, if you were stuck with your mum somewhere in a scary situation like this and there were some people that could go in and pull you out, I would want them to do that. And that's why I'm going. That's why Dad's going.
It's interesting that you just explain that to your kids. I don't think I ever...
Well, because they didn't want me to go, so I had to give them some
my
reason.
Kids did want me to go, yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, so that's fascinating.
But so what happened with the COVID responses, they did one flight, that the first flight was led by the Darwin people and Bronte and people up out of the Northern Territory, and they took them to Christmas Island. But you can't land the jumbo jet on Christmas Island. They used a Qantas jumbo. So they had to land in WA. Up in
an oversight going, we've got a plane, but we can't land.
The runway is not good enough.
Sure.
So they had to land up north in WA on the army base there, and then transfer these people to Christmas Island, where they were going to be quarantined. So I was sent up as part because I was an OSMAT member in WA to help with that bit. So I did the flights over to Christmas Island. Then it came through very quickly that there were more people to get out, and the government were.
At this stage?
No, this is way before vaccination.
Yeah, see, because my mate was head of a respiratory unit in the UK and got really sick, and as he said, the thing is, we weren't vaccinated.
No.
So people are going in there. I mean, it
was before.
Again,
We didn't know,
respect to
Bruce.
you're going in, it's going. We don't know what's.
Well, you got to remember, this was the time we were told it was all fomite transmission, so it was all droplets on desks. Right. It wasn't aerosolized.
So you could
all of that.
just prevent it.
So we had standard PPE. We had masks and gowns and gloves. And I remember, this is the funniest thing. So we flew into. I remember landing. Anyway, so second flight it needs to go. I'd done those transfers, so I had a bit of experience. I'd seen how they set up the first flight, which was very much make it up as you go.
Brilliant.
They're like, can you go and do the second one? So I'm like, sure. So we got stuck on the runway in Hong Kong for a day or so, which was interesting, waiting for the politics to settle down, and then it's go, go, go. And I remember flying to Wuhan, and you talked about 28 days later. It looked just like I Am Legend. You know Will Smith movie, I Am Legend?
Exactly what you mean.
So we're flying in this massive city, second biggest.
World War Z was the other one that it reminded me of.
Yeah, it's the same. It's second biggest city in China, lit up, nothing moving. There was a complete lockdown, and we land, and there's no one in the airport, and we dock, and we open the doors on this. We're in a 747 with a crew with about 6 team members, and we open the doors, and these guys in full hazmat suits, all these Chinese guys in full hazmat suits,
my God,
in yellow suits, open it, and we're like, we're in our masks, and we're like, maybe we've underestimated this a bit. But and then we had a fascinating time of about 12 hours of filling the plane with people. We didn't know who we were getting, how sick they'd be. So we had a kind of pseudo-resus area. We had to try and manage people in terms of feeding them, stopping them infecting each other if they're infected, screening them, trying to work out whether they had other medical conditions. And then we flew. Once we loaded everyone, we flew out with a full plane.
When you fly out, are you now tooled up in the full PPE gear, or you?
No. Well,
for those who
just
don't know,
PPE.
PPE became almost like you were fighting one of those firefighting kind of things, like a massive hood and everything.
No, we only had masks and gowns and gloves.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
In a plane, trapped in a plane with them.
Yeah, brilliant.
But then we ended up going to Darwin because Christmas Island was full, and we didn't know that. So on the way, we diverted to Darwin, and then we got straight off the plane and went down to Howard Springs, and we had to set up what became the National Quarantine Centre, which became the gold standard for quarantining COVID in the world, but was very serendipitous or smart decision making by some people.
So sorry. By the way,
yeah.
what we aren't you supposed to be anaesthetising privately for surgeons at this point?
Yeah.
I know Alex has gone off again.
Yeah. Well, my surgeons are pretty good like that. So I don't do much private. I've worked with Prof Yates for years, and I do a bit of ENT and stuff, and my surgeons know that sometimes I just go on these things and I get covered.
And Fiona Stanley cool with that as well?
Yeah, so my contract at the time allows me to go off with OSMAT unless there's a pressing clinical need that would keep me in the hospital.
You've got that in your contract,
that was in my contract, yeah, and so I was just allowed to go, which
Did you get COVID during that time?
No.
You didn't?
No, I didn't, no.
That's amazing.
Yeah, well, there wasn't much COVID that came out on those initial flights with those people. The subsequent, the way Howard Springs worked, I went back a few times, was it became the quarantine centre, and then there was lots of COVID through there. But it was probably because of the way we set it up, which is a bit of luck and a bit of smarts. Yep. That meant that we just got very little transmission in there.
Okay, so that's really impressive.
Yeah, really interesting. The whole thing was fascinating.
So that's OSMAT, but then you're also part of the DFES, aren't you? Part of the Emergency Services for WA? Yeah. So you're a fireman as well?
No, I'm not a fireman. I'm one of the doctors, which there's 4 of us in the state. Our role's to look after the DFES, primarily to look after the DFES firefighters if there's a big disaster. So it's something that's
when you say look after them, what do you mean?
So we travel with the team, if necessary, it would be to a major disaster, and be not on the front line like it's usually earthquake stuff, things like that. We'd be not in the front line in the rubble, but further back. So primarily to support them, but also to provide some medical assistance to any victims. Something that we've never deployed in a full capability, but we're there. We're on a roster, and I think that's because I do OSMAT and things like that. It's the same sort of thing. It's a natural.
So slightly as a segue to that,
yeah,
I'm hearing that and listening to you and seeing your energy and skill and enthusiasm, have you come close to ending up to being in Gaza? Because you and I know people who've
been, absolutely, yeah. So Hazmat, the beautiful thing about Hazmat, Bruce, is that whilst we go to some interesting places, it's generally very safe because it's federally supported. So it's a government to government request.
Okay.
We send in a team. It would be with security. So it's a way of doing that sort of work without being at too much risk. There's always risk.
Yeah.
So Gaza and things like that, I would love to do that sort of stuff, but I've got a family and children, and I'm not in a position right now where I would do that because of the risk involved. So MSF and Red Cross, Red Crescent stuff that Jenny's done, and many other people is far riskier than Hazmat in a way.
Telling me some really extraordinary
she's
stories
been in
about
Sudan
people
and all
she
sorts
meets.
of places,
Really just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Right, so apart from all that, which obviously when you're bored, you then also work with Fremantle, with the Dockers.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. That's one of my favourite things to do is work with. I'm one of the team doctors.
Are you a Dockers fan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I didn't know. You might be an Eagles. You might be scum. I don't know.
No, definitely not. I don't mind the Eagles, I should say.
How did you end up? Come on, how did you end up? Oh yeah, well, they just asked, and I just said, did you target them? How did
No.
you?
So I'll tell you what happened. So I was a fellow at Royal Perth in anaesthesia doing. I was interested in airway anaesthesia, which and again that challenge yourself sort of thing. And I was working doing maxillofacial with Ray Williamson, Prof Williamson, who's a Queenslander, massive rugby fan, and we had a great time. He did all this complex maxillary mandibular advancement stuff.
Well, as you know, I was very lucky. Somebody put my face back.
Well, that's right. One of those guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Great stuff. And
Girl,
you're
she
quite
was
pretty
amazing.
still as
no,
well.
Thank you. She girl. In fact, she when some registrar was pulling the wires out, she was in the corner of the room. I'd never met her, didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
And she said, "Do you know who I am?" I said, "No, not really." And she said, "Well, that lad there, he takes wires out.
I put them in.
Should I put them in?"
Yeah.
She said, "Trust me." She said, "If you don't remember what happened, then that's a good thing."
That's a good thing.
Anyway,
yeah.
maxillofacial, amazing people.
The great people. And that surgery's it's actually life-changing stuff that they're doing.
It is.
Anyway, long story short, he was a massive rugby fan. He was one of the doctors with the Western Force. So they had, in the original days, they had numerous specialists that used to go and sit and watch the game. And if there was a dental thing, he'd go down and help.
Sober up and go and
sober up. Yeah, exactly.
Whoever could walk would go and do the
go
patient.
down and see the players. And he said, "We need a resus guy. Why don't you come and do that? You'd be great." And I played rugby. I loved rugby. So it was just a natural fit. And then I did get a call out of the blue, I think from Peter Steele, who's a sports doctor who had been with the Force and was now at the Dockers.
Yeah.
And they'd had a couple, my understanding is they'd had a couple of trauma type injuries. And at the time it was Ken Withers, who's a great fella, who was a GP with a sports interest, and Pete, who was a sports doctor. And so they had a couple of situations where they got a bit nervy, trauma, pneumothorax type thing, seizures, those sorts of things.
Having done motorsport, you kind of, as you said, you suddenly find yourself and go, wow,
they're a bit uncomfortable.
On.
Yeah. So their wheelhouse is musculoskeletal, all of that stuff. And so I think they wanted someone to come along. So they said, "Would you consider doing the role that you do with the Force and just coming? We'll give you tickets, just watch the game." And if anything bad happens, you can come and give us a hand. So I was like,
at that stage with the Dockers, presumably you turned the tickets down because I was
No,
it was pretty ugly back in the day.
Start of the build. It was. I think my first game was with. I might have done one with Chris Connolly, but it was Mark Harvey. So it was Mark Harvey. Anyway, what happened there was I came down and helped them out. There was there was a player called Peter Foulkes who got a really nasty Lafort facial fracture during a game, and I helped with that. And I think I was deemed reasonably useful. And then Ken used to do the cricket and Pete used to do the hockey. So they would all have periods of time away during the season. And so it just became you've been around, like we trust you. Do you want to fill in?
So again, we see Alex Swan saying, yeah, go on then.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I did.
As you said, WA is a place where if you say, well, go on then.
Yeah.
And you're reasonably qualified.
Yeah, and I think it's all about if you said earlier, being a good bloke, but if you get on with people and you're a good human in the sense that you can fit in, it goes a long way, right?
Amen.
And then I was doing it, and I was like, well, I better know what I'm doing. So I did a sports med degree, just to really get me up to speed. I learned more actually just doing the job, and then and then I've been in and out in various iterations, various amounts over about 12, maybe more longer years.
Okay.
And I always wanted to do more, but I never could because I was opening a hospital and doing various things. And then
it's got a couple of other things going on. Yeah.
And then recently they said, would you do more? And so now I do a full day a week at the club, and we share the travel, and I do all the home games, and it's great fun. And it's just great fun. Like, it's elite sport. It's great people. The teamwork's amazing. Yeah. You get to see behind the scenes of something that I'm fascinated with. Pretend to be an athlete. It's as close as they'll ever be to being a good athlete. And I've been lucky enough to rub shoulders with some legends, really. Pav, and I went to a grand final, and Michael Walters retired today, which is very sad. He's been a great player, and it's been fantastic. And it's opened other opportunities. I've worked for a few of the other footy clubs in COVID. I worked for Essendon when they were here. I've done State of Origin for Queensland. I've done all sorts of things just through links. And it's all comes from saying yes, Bruce.
There you go. Through saying, go on, I'll have a go.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads us on to what is obviously a tricky issue and a challenge for rugby clubs, footy clubs, all sorts of clubs. And that is head injuries and concussions in elite sportsmen. Let's talk about elite sportsmen. And clearly, these are very important people, hugely motivated, often scarily committed. It must be difficult to manage those guys when clearly the contact point can be, way beyond what most of us amateurs would even contemplate. Do you watch it and go, wow? How does the doctor's role in a professional sports outfit where head injuries? How do you fit in with that?
Well, we have a pretty critical role. I would say in terms of the way we do it, in terms of identifying potential concussion, protecting players.
Sorry to interrupt you. So, because rugby league, I've noticed how there's some guy sat in the stand watching the players, and I've noticed how they'll kind of intervene and go, right, number 12 has to come off. Yep. Does footy have the same overseeing person, or you or the docs doing it on the sidelines as well?
We have both. So my understanding, and I don't do too much with the other sports, so I can't speak too clearly for them. Sure. But all the sports deal with it slightly differently. But it's all about, obviously, things have changed. In my time being involved, there's a lot more awareness of the implications of concussion. Absolutely. And so all the governing bodies of all the codes around the world are trying to grapple with this complex issue, and they're trying to do the right thing by players. Sure. They're trying to protect players. And the education's changed, so players are far better educated, which is important.
Tell me about that, because you and I mean, obviously, I work with a bit with Marines and sports people in the UK, and obviously you work with them here. It's quite hard to get young men to be honest, is it, about being injured, particularly with head injuries? I mean, I know that's not to say they're dishonest, but, you and me,
they're competitive, right?
I've seen your medical list and you've seen mine, and you and I weren't very good at saying, I don't think I'm okay.
No.
Again, is that about relationships for you?
Absolutely. So first of all, it's about education, right? So I think in the old days, players didn't know that there were implications, or it was a bad thing. It was part of the course.
We talked about you and I getting knocked out, and that just meant you got drunker quicker later on.
That's right, and it was a badge of honour to get up and keep playing, and that thankfully is gone as we've got better education. But the players now are not forced to, but the AFL put them through educational programs.
Do they really?
Yeah,
okay.
There's a whole department there that is to do with education and welfare. Okay. There's lots of talks, lots of recognition, lots of understanding. There's videos at the beginning of the season showing players, showing what they might look like when they've been concussed.
Do the players engage in that?
Yeah, they do now.
Are they interested? They are interested now.
So and that's changed over time as awareness has come, and so much so that now sometimes the players will tell us as we're running onto the pitch that someone's in trouble. And that, in fact, because concussion can be quite subtle,
absolutely.
sometimes it's not an obvious hit, or there's no obvious posturing or but there's some behavioural element that the players actually pick up on before we do. So and so is not in the right position. Why isn't he tracking back there? This is not the set play. And so often the players will say that's not happening, or the box will see that someone's not tracking back into position or whatever it is, and they'll go, "Can you check?" So there's all sorts of things going on, but the players themselves.
So it's quite a flip sided. So it's not, oh, he's fine. It's actually, so that's really impressive that players and people are going, okay, so he's not okay.
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for all the clubs, but our club in particular, they with the culture there at the moment is about looking out for each other, and it's a very caring culture. So I've been running on to assess someone, and a player said to me, he's behaving funny, go get him. And so they're looking out for each other, and that's amazing, right?
Okay, so that's really impressive.
Yeah.
So tell me, because I don't know very much about footy apart from watching the Dockers and getting the sense that there's quite a sort of family feel to it.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that you say that actually the culture of looking out for those with head injuries doesn't come as a primary thing. It comes as a secondary thing of looking out for people who might not be okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which means that it's broader than just head injuries. It's about, mental health, wellness.
Absolutely.
Right. And families too.
Absolutely. I mean, it's.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like I say, I can't speak for other clubs, but our club is very well run. It's very holistic. It's very modern in the way that these are young kids with different issues, dealing with different issues than I dealt with. Yeah. Mental health is obviously spoken about widely, and we all know that there are very public issues within all these sports codes with kids that are
being an elite sportsman is mentally really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then you add the pressure of the media and it being a 2-team town and everything else that goes with it.
And we were one of only 2 clubs who've never won the flag.
We're on the way to winning the flag, Bruce.
Yes, that's right. Please don't say that, because every year my friend Johnny says this is a year and he's going to get a tattoo. And I said, mate, I think you need to get a tattoo now, because no, but seriously, and I always think that they always come across as a young club, dynamic.
But the cultures of caring, Bruce, and that's for staff and people. So, for example, there are kids around the club the whole time. I don't know if you saw on the weekend, it was a Starlight game, and that's actually. That's a really important game for the players. It's amazing. They spend time with these kids. They spend time with them off the field as well.
So that's genuine. So I mean,
genuine.
Because one could be a little bit cynical about, but it's not. It's not. Maybe that's why Frame haven't won a flag then, because actually, genuinely, they're good. I mean, good people. I mean that in the nicest possible way.
I think it starts with being good people. Starts with looking out for each other. That camaraderie. That family, that brotherhood, if you're one of the boys on the pitch, or the extended family, we all look out for each other. Staff, it's very close bond, it's very close knit, it's great, and very much the mantra is we're all in it. It's not just the players as well. The players have to perform. Our job is to give them the best opportunity to perform as well as they can, and that's every staff member from the. It's not just the doctors, the physios. It's everyone at the club.
And of course, that takes us back to the head injury thing. Is if so and so's not okay, I mean, if you like, well, he's not going to perform.
Of course, he's not,
because he's not okay.
Yeah.
So even if you're not that bothered about whether he's concussed or not, for whatever reason, he's not doing what he should be. Yeah. And therefore, that's of everybody's interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. It's a sum of the parts, and it's the one industry. Or it's one of the few, hazmat's probably the same, in which, how everyone has value statements and we call them anchors.
They were. You see, I was a bit cynical and kind of go, but because some of the NGOs that I would meet, they'd have a statement about something and they wouldn't behave like that.
Yeah. And that's very common. I mean, public health is very like that. Everyone's got a value statement. What I have taken from these small, high-performing teams is they really live that. So they're called the anchors, and family is one of the anchors, and that is lived by the club, and it's referenced. It's referenced in emails. It's referenced in communications. It's referenced in conversations. Okay. Is that a value that we want to be elite? And that's across the board. And that's very powerful when it's done well. When it's done poorly, it's rubbish.
Sure. Yeah. So in that case, all the challenges around concussions and head injuries, ironically, must be difficult for the clubs then, because these are sportsmen who have at risk of, but they're elite sportsmen, of things that will echo beyond their sporting time. Yeah. And I know that a lot of clubs are thinking more about what happens to our players after they stop playing.
Yeah. And the AFL is, as an organisation, I think the ripples go a long way, and we don't quite know when or how. We can't predict it. It's very difficult.
But there seems to be an open conversation. I mean,
there is, yeah.
My colleagues at Monash University are associated with that, trying to help people understand the risk profile, and as we know, the science around identifying who's at risk and who isn't, etc.
Yeah. I think AFL's very lucky. They've got Mike McDeasy is the chief medical officer for the AFL over in Melbourne. Used to be the Hawthorn doctor, and he's one of the world experts in concussion and head injury. So they have panels, he meets regularly with the NFL, with the rugby. Everyone's trying to learn from each other. Okay. Everyone's trying to work out ways of doing it better. And it's also about understanding that this is a sport that's been played for a long time. It's got a great history. Yeah. Courage and physicality are part of the game, as they are with rugby or with any contact sport. So how do you preserve the essence of the game and not change it too much, and preserve people who really want to play and love playing?
And I watch a lot of NRL, and I know there's a lot of conversation about people going, "Oh, come on, that's not really a hit." When I look at it, it looks like a pretty bad hit. But like you said, compared to 20 years ago, it's a guy needs to get up, which goes back to what you and I said. It's not funny, and it is important.
Yeah.
So me as let's say a father of 2 sons.
Yeah.
Are they okay playing rugby and footy? 12, 14, 16?
Well, it's a really difficult question, Bruce.
Exactly.
The stats.
And by the way, I wasn't expecting you to say
not to have an answer. No.
It's really a rhetorical question, isn't it?
Well, the stats would say that lots of people have played these games and are fine, but they'd also say that there are many people who've played the game and have some impact from it. Yep. I'm the same. I have children. My boy is a massive footy fan. He's always around the club. Part of the family thing, they're so good with him. He's a pretty good little player. He played rugby as well, and he loves the physicality of it.
I was going to say, if anything like his dad, and what I've seen about you is
I was no good.
But he's going to get banged up. But by the way, being good and getting banged up are completely. I mean, I played for a while at Saracens, and it wasn't. It was obligatory. You put your head in there when it had to be. Otherwise, you weren't there. You weren't there, were you? And it's an instinct, isn't it? Like your boy. You just do, don't you? You don't.
Yeah, you do. And I've talked to Lisa about it, my wife, and her view is, how can I stop him playing when he loves it so much and it drives him? So there's
By the way,
a balance.
This is Lisa, who's the martial arts expert.
Oh yeah, she's a kickboxer.
She black. She's a proper.
Oh look, she did kickboxing. She was a bouncer. She was a
bouncer. That's right. Yeah. She's about a foot taller than you.
Yeah.
Because I remember meeting her, thinking, "Wow,
I know she's really tall." Everyone says that. Yeah.
Okay.
She's stronger than me as well.
So you two. So one is pragmatic with risk with amateurs, and then presumably the things that the professionals will learn will seep down to how we manage. We manage the amateur game.
And the amateur game's being managed differently. There are different concussion rules. I think we were mentioning this earlier in the amateur game.
Stricter,
than there are.
more strict.
Not stricter, but different, because I guess with the AFL system, the players are looked after incredibly well. There's a doctor there every day. There's a high performance health team there every day. They're looked at constantly. It's like a 24-hour job, 24/7 job. In amateur school sport, you get concussed, you go and see your GP, and you have to follow up. So it's very understandable that they have stricter return to play guidelines.
Well, I think that's really
longer
interesting.
time periods, things like that.
So you mentioned general practice, and I'm glad you did, because quite a number of the people I've met in the brain injury community actually were identified as brain injury sufferers by their general practitioner, not by a sports person, by a general practitioner who knew them and who was sufficiently educated. And again, I'm always a big supporter of general practice, in that it's often the poor sister and brother to what you and I do in high-end hospital stuff, but that they see the patients most.
Yeah, they know them best.
And in fact, the education going to them and the support for them being able to make these assessments seems to me really important, because mostly, like you said, you're in elite sport. You can't be the one looking after all these people, and yet somebody is, and the general practitioner is probably the best position to do that.
Yeah. Okay. But also we have we do a lot of things in elite sport that you just don't have access to in the general community, like baseline cognitive function tests that the players will do every year. So,
Do they really?
yeah, so we can compare a cognitive function at a time period after a concussion or during season with a baseline measure, which helps us. We also know the players, so we spend a lot of time with them, and you know what they're like as a character.
Is that right? Because I didn't know anything about. I was only after my injury that I had any cognitive function at all. I'd never even heard of it. So there you go. It just shows that there's a huge amount of ignorance around that, and yet the club is there doing. And ironically, I didn't know the club were doing that, and so.
The whole industry.
Even if the club feels like they're kind of slightly under the microscope. I mean, you and I talked about how it's a difficult topic for professional clubs. They're actually doing a huge amount. For it.
Yeah, absolutely, and very supportive, and I think you look back at sport in the old days, and you think back to Bloodgate, the thing in rugby, rugby in the UK and things, and there's clearly in the past in sport there's been some pressure from organisations on medical staff. What I can speak to is that at my club there's zero pressure on that. It's absolutely our call. They want the best. It's always about the best interest of the player.
So there is progress, and of course part of the progress is being more transparent, which opens people up to stuff they didn't know, and all you can do is explain it and make sense of it and be consistent in what you do. So that's amazing. I'm really glad that we talked about that. So let me just ask you a couple of other things.
Sure.
Firstly, your kids, irrespective of their academic ability, if they wanted to do medicine.
I know where you go.
What would you say?
Well, my daughter's in this position at the moment.
Is she?
Yeah. It's my daughter's year 12.
National standard swimmer, by the way.
Oh, she was,
Yeah, and now, we're not trying to embarrass her, by the way, so we won't say her name, but clearly talented. And I'd take
she's pretty capable. She's hardworking, Bruce. She's different to me.
I
She's
hate
very
those.
like my sister.
Those people are really annoying, the hardworking ones.
No, she's very like my sister, who is smarter than me and better at everything than me and
She must be pretty bloody awesome.
So she wants to do medicine now, and I struggle to know what to say to her about that. And
tell me why, because most people will be surprised, be very proud that.
A couple of reasons. Because I'm not necessarily completely fulfilled by medicine. I like what I do. It's given me great opportunities. I enjoy it. I feel like I do something that actually does make a difference sometimes to people, which is great, and gives me some satisfaction.
Does. Definitely does.
So, but I also I'm quite jealous of people that do other things, and I'd love the opportunity to do other things, and I have no skill set in anything else, right? Because you and I both went to med school, so that's all we can do. I don't even know what other people do in their day-to-day jobs, really.
See, that's really weird, because, and I promise I wouldn't speak to any of my own experience, but you're absolutely right. It's part of the reason we started doing the podcast is I've had the chance to talk to other people about, you do what?
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
And you and I have both gone, I went and joined the Navy and did all sorts of things. As you said, purely because otherwise you leave medical school, you leave school and the doors open, you go across to medical school. Medical school doors open, you go to a hospital.
That's it.
And at 65, they go, thanks very much.
Get your specialty, get into that, and then you're stuck, right?
Yeah.
And so I've often described feeling trapped in medicine, and that's, it's not trapped, is it? Because it's we're well paid, we've got a great job, so it's great.
Would you ever leave?
Potentially, yeah, I think so. I think there'd be time to leave. I don't want to stay in medicine as I deteriorate, if you like. I'd like to. Like a sportsman, go out on top when I'm still good at what I do. I don't want to get a dreaded tap on the shoulder. Come on, Swanee, it's time to stop. So and I think I'm doing
have an
things.
Out plan? My mate always says you have to have an out plan, as in
not a specific plan, but I've done things like I've done my company director's course and various other bits and bobs.
I did the same. So you and I have gone, well, let's try that.
Well, it just gives me options. And if something interesting comes, it'll be about interest for me. Something interesting comes along, like this hospital thing that I'm doing, it's that would be interesting.
Well, you've got a CV and an underlying profession that people respect, because whatever else you might be, they know you must work hard and be smart, because you can't be a doctor. You just can't be. Even if you don't have those two qualities, then it isn't for you anyway.
Yeah. Okay. But coming back to what you said, the question, which was,
you're right.
So I struggle, but then I remember that's my experience, and I probably tainted my daughter. I took her to Vietnam. I do some charity work in Vietnam with people from Guys and Tommies, old friends. And I took her, and of course she had an amazing experience because she's pretty smart. She's engaging, so she was invited
like a
into
mum.
surgeries, and
like a mum.
yeah, absolutely, just like a mum. And she was allowed to do things, and she just thought it was wonderful. But I had to say to her, "This is not it's not what it's like at Fiona Stanley or in the public system. This is a unique bunch of people. They're humanitarians. That's why they're open."
But like you said, there is an opportunity.
There's an opportunity
to do
it.
that
Yeah,
with that qualification.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the second thing, so number one, I don't want my experience to drive her. She's got to make her own decisions, and I've got no idea how you knew. I had parents that were doctors. She's got parents. One who's a doctor. So
your parents are doctors?
Both of them, yeah.
Oh, right. So see, mine, I was a complete...
You're a complete...
What was he
yeah,
doing?
no, I think you just naturally go into it. The second thing is I think medicine's going to change, Bruce. So for me, it's a fascinating time. AI is just starting, and I'm too old to fully get it.
Don't say that because I'm older than you. Well, don't say because I'm older than you.
No,
so
but we are. We're fossils, right? So
I'm not a fossil.
No, I was talking to a...
I'm more sort of leathery handbag.
No, we're fossils. You just can't admit it yet. Okay. But I was talking to an organisation that I work with about IT and the future, and just even getting an electronic medical record and collecting data for research and things. And they're so behind. But the people I have in the roles of IT managers are 60-year-old people. And it's like, you're too old, man. You need 20-somethings that know where this is going. This technology is unbelievable, and it will change the game. So I don't know what happens to a lot of subspecialties. So radiology probably predominantly replaced by AI pretty quickly, I would say.
Well, so the interesting thing about radiology is obviously AI is data driven, and so what will happen, I think, is, as I understand it, is that the experts will still be experts. But instead of looking at 30 X-rays an hour, they'll look at one.
That's right, yeah.
The one that the AI says, I don't know what that is.
But that means you don't need as many of the experts.
Probably.
So pathology, looking at slides under a microscope. Why doesn't AI do that straight away? And even...
Because there are good websites you can look in the States, dermatology ones, that are much better at diagnosing skin cancers with a photo than a dermatologist can do.
Takes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is this melanoma? Logical. Is it? Yeah, no. Yeah. Even our world, Bruce. Even I think we're quite replaceable. So I
always happy with that.
Well, you know,
as in happy in the if there are, in the States, if there are 3 theatres, as you said, mostly I don't have a role to do other than walk in and be facetious, and I'm quite happy with that because
we have a role, but there's a lot of our job that could be done
in
a different way, is what I would say. So you could have AI. Yeah. AI will control your pumps for your TIVA.
Yeah,
it'll change the rates better than I can do.
See, the reason I struggle with all these initiatives is almost exclusively they seem to be driven by finance, when it seems to me that they should be driven by the fact that they will deliver quality.
That's right. There you go. That's right. But we're clinicians, so we want that. But I'm saying it's inevitable. And I think we need to be on the front foot with it, and we need to learn how to use it well and how it can work better for us and make our lives better, make patients' lives better.
So when you did your exams, when you were back at school, did you use a calculator?
Yeah.
So we weren't allowed to. So that's how we're in different eras.
Yeah.
Because it was cheating.
Yeah, you're older than me.
And now, in the writing world, there's a whole debate about what role does ChatGPT have in terms of writing. And the fact is, I always say, well, because the creative bit is you and I. The rest of it can do much better than us, but the originality bit, the innovative bit, is still the bit that we need to be better at. So we have
to harness it to do the donkey work that allows us to be creative or innovative or do the specialised bits that only a human can do at the moment. But what I mean is I don't know enough about it as to see where it goes, and I think it will change very quickly. And I think I'll survive, right, because I'm almost 50 and I've got only a little bit of time left working.
But what we've heard from you is you'll embrace it. We know from what you've said about have a go.
I have no choice.
You don't have to. Lots of people don't. But we know from what we've heard from you today is that you will. If anybody, and you'll go, well, I didn't really know much about it to begin with. And I'll say, yeah, but you did ask good questions and remain curious.
Yeah.
Which seems to be very important.
That's the key, isn't it? Curiosity.
So is your daughter going to have a crack at medicine then?
I think so. Yeah. And that's cool because she's got to make her own way and work out.
What about your son? Sorry, we don't talk about
he just wants to play footy.
Brilliant.
So
good.
He wants to be Andy Brayshaw or Caleb Serong, and that's all he wants to do. And
good for him.
So I have to keep saying to him, you have to have another option, buddy. But I also don't want to destroy his dream either. And we'll see where that happens. See where that goes. He did say to me he could be a sports physio after or sports doctor after he's played footy.
Go with his mum and dad. He could be a bouncer. He could be all sorts of things.
I couldn't be a bouncer. That's my wife.
You're too small.
Yeah.
So look, one last question, and I didn't warn you about this, but I saw a research study that where they asked people this. So if you for some reason invited me to speak at your retirement party, what would you like people to say about Alex Swan's career, about Alex Swan as a doctor? What would you like people to say about what you did?
About me as a doctor?
But what would you about Alex Swan's career? What would you like people to say? Would you like to? In other words, somebody might say, "Oh, I'd like to say that I did 400 research projects."
Oh no, I don't. No, well, I'd hope people would say he what would I hope they'd say? What would I like to say? Hopefully, he did a decent job, but he cared. I think that's the thing for me. I think I do care about trying to do a good job. I don't think I know loads of people that are far better in anaesthetists than me, for example, but I care and I try to do a good job. I really try to be a good person in terms of...
And you're a teacher?
Colleague and friend.
And you teach as well, don't you?
I do a bit, yeah, absolutely. Because I think I was just, again, like the generation I came from, Bruce, was people who... grabbed me before my med finals. The years above said, "You're coming to my house. I'm going to grill you because you need to pass." I didn't ask. They imposed it on me. They wanted to help.
Because they loved it. Because
they loved it and they wanted to pass it on, and they'd been beneficiaries of it. And so I'm very much from that school. So I try and help people. And
what about a leader? What about a leader? Would you like people to say that?
I've held leadership roles. I would hope that. Yeah, I'd hope if they. You're going to be polarizing. Want someone? Yeah, I think I would hope they'd say I led with integrity and honesty and tried to do the right thing. I don't know whether I was good. I think for times when I've been good and times when I've not been good, and that's the nature of it.
There is a DG of health who said to me, "Look, leadership roles aren't a popularity contest. If you want to be popular, get yourself a dog." And I thought, well, I think one of the weaknesses for a lot of us, perhaps when we start leadership, is wanting to be popular and realizing that is a very different. If that's what you want, you're never going to be happy.
Yeah, I've learned those lessons definitely. I think someone said to me, actually, a mentor of mine who you know as well, who's a great friend. He said that there's leadership in different times and different ways, and I think I'm best in those environments. Like hazmat, they're almost the more pressure environments. So COVID response, I remember the hospital, everyone was scared. I think I was able to lead very well in those situations. It's not wartime, that's the wrong phraseology, but in a crisis, if you like, I'm better than in peacetime when everything's, and things are different. And that I thought was quite interesting.
But like to slightly completely change it and probably to maybe have to edit this in somewhere, but I had a bit of conversation with our colleague who brought the children out from the cave. And I don't know anything about diving, but what I do know is that his leadership saved those children's lives in the sense that he said, "This is what we're going to do."
That's right.
And most people would have said, "Oh yeah, but what about the consequences?" And he said, "Well, no, but if we don't do this," and I always.
But that's decision making, Bruce.
About there you go about risk, about accepting the risk and leading and saying, "Follow me."
Yeah, that's real leadership. I agree.
And not only that, but he admitted that he actually thought most of the children
they might not make it. Yeah,
might not make it, and yet he still did it because the outcome otherwise was inevitable.
Yeah.
And in fact,
everyone dead versus trying to get some out. And
you and I talked about leadership, and I say with ICU that, and I got rung up to be asked a question. It's because there wasn't an answer, because the guys who were ringing me, girls and guys who knew their stuff. They only rang me when there wasn't an answer, and that was what the leadership was going, "Well, Alex said to do this." Yeah. "Alex, how did you know?" And Alex goes, "Well, I didn't.
I didn't know.
My job was to make a decision."
I absolutely. I think that's. I completely agree with that. I think it's the decision making, and people reach out to you as a leader because they don't want to, or they're nervous to, or they're scared, or they're worried about the consequences, or whatever it is. And I think that's your job in a leadership role, whether it's head of ICU or leading a task force to get a bunch of kids out of the cave, is you've got to make a decision.
Or hazmat.
Hazmat's the same.
COVID.
Well, he affiliated with hazmat as well. and it's just making the best decision that you can at the time with the information that you've got, and that's all it is. But to not make a decision, it is bad as well.
Yeah.
So, and you've got to be prepared to be wrong.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, there
because you made a decision, and I've been wrong numerous times about things, as I'm sure you have as well.
Well, interesting. So again, we can cut into this. I know that one of your expertise is about airway management, about trauma management, and it was interesting for me when I went to a trauma conference and I told them a bit about my accident. Unconscious, broken neck, shattered jaw, and I said to people who in the room would have put me to sleep, intubated me, and everyone said they would, and I said, well, the person who looked after me didn't. And my question to them was, did that mean it was the right decision or the wrong decision? And of course, the point is the outcome is not necessarily the same as the right decision.
That's right.
In other words, I mean, you obviously make a lot of decisions and bear the fact that, well, in hindsight, sure.
Yeah. But difficult airway management, whether it's your situation or any situation, as you know, that's what I try and teach registrars. I don't have all the right answers. I'm not even an expert. I'm interested, right? And I've done a lot of it, and I've done a lot of head and neck, and that leads me to make decisions. And I make a decision. This is my plan. That's all I do.
But I thought you were teaching me because you're an expert.
No, I'm not an expert. I don't class myself as an expert. I've worked with experts. So Richard Riley is an expert. He taught me a lot of stuff. I always term myself an enthusiast because that's what I think I am. Because I'm interested, and I do a fair amount of work, and I've done a lot, and you get a feel for it and stuff.
Okay, but so is there any area of what you do that you would allow me to call you an expert?
No, absolutely
Would you
not.
ever? Okay, now see, I think we're back to humility, which I think is a really strong thing.
I don't think it's humility.
Sports medicine?
No, definitely not sports medicine. I'm not an expert in sports medicine. I work with people who are experts in sports medicine.
Would they say you were an expert?
No, I work with experts in sports.
Because I would have said
medicine.
you were an expert anaesthetist.
No, I don't agree with that. I mean, like, for example, I can't remember the last time I did a urology case, for example. I could probably get away with it. Yeah, so I think I am. So I listen to a lot of these sorts of things, and I'm fascinated by sport, and I heard a podcast by Ian McGeechan, the famous Lions rugby coach, who's a hero of mine. He was coach of Scotland, and he talks, and this is what I believe in, he talks about world-class basics. He said, the Lions aren't the best team because they're the best. It's about because they do the basics well, and that's how you get good at anything. And if you actually look at literature around that, or even you look at people like Ronaldo and Messi, these people that do genius things that you think are genius, they do that stuff because they are so good at the very basics. So even with you bring it back to what we do with airway management, the only job is to get oxygen in and to the tissues.
I've said this over and over again.
That is it. That's all I do. All day, every day. That isn't smart. It's not clever. It doesn't make me an expert. I just have a few different techniques maybe than someone else to do it. And so,
as Gary Player once said, the harder I practice, the luckier I get.
That's exactly it. That's it. So it's. I think I can do the basics well. I'm prepared to make decisions, and those are my powers. I'm not as smart as someone you mentioned earlier, Mike Ward, even, or anything like that.
I bet what I do bet, we'll have to cut that out as well. Otherwise, we'll have to go back to. Otherwise, what I would bet is, I bet you have no problem asking someone else whom you see as an expert for help.
Absolutely, all the time.
Yeah.
And even when I was head of department, I had no qualms about, this person will benefit from some fancy block. I don't know how to do that. I'll call my friend down the road. That's why I'm in a quaternary tertiary hospital. Like, come and help me. I call ICU all the time.
And the best surgeon that I work with, he would call somebody else for particular situations because he'd go, well, they're better than me.
That's right. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And the best surgeons do that as well. They don't just do any operation because they can. They go, I'm really good at these things. So you need something else, I'll refer you to this other person. And they cross-refer. And the best surgeons cross-refer even to competitors and all of that stuff. And that shows insight. And so I think that's what it is. And that's why I say I'm not an expert. I've done a lot of things. I enjoy doing a lot of things. I've often been out of my comfort zone, and you get imposter syndrome, and you realise that there are loads of people that could do things better than you, but also it's like COVID. What did we do? You go back to something like Ebola. It's just basics. What are the basics? Isolate people, keep them away, stop it being contaminated. We just applied the basics of pretty Ebola-type management in infection. And I'm not an infectious diseases guy, right? But we applied that to the situation we had in the best way we could. Then we got a load of luck because we had ventilation and sunlight and UV killed the bug. And so we had 0 transmissions in quarantine. That wasn't because we were smart. That was because of basics and luck. And that's all it is.
So I think the thing is that from what we've heard from you, while you've insisted that you're not that nice a bloke and you're not really an expert, I think we can let other people make their decisions. But what we have learned is you're transparent and open. And again, I think things like concussion, things like the challenges for sports clubs and for patients and for surgeons and for health authorities, what you need is people who have a natural ability to lead and an open mind and have a go. And if anybody else can say that's what Alex Swan is, that's what I would say. So thank you so much for letting us chat to you.
Oh, thanks. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.